Hello and welcome to this video, which is a test walkthrough of a Year 7 and 8 20 question test. Just to introduce myself, my name is Daniel Lear. I'm the numeracy coordinator in the school. And I also should introduce Mrs. Arnold, our numeracy teaching assistant, who many of the pupils are more familiar with in terms of delivering numeracy withdrawal sessions. So let's start with question 1. So question 1, addition. And we're doing the question here, 169 plus 453. Starting with our units, 9 plus 3, which is 12, 2 units and 110. And the 110 carries over into the tens column. We tend to write our carried units underneath. 6 plus 5 plus 1 is 12 again. And 1 plus 4 plus 1 is 6. Okay, and there's a few for you to try then underneath if you want to pause the video at any point. Question 2, subtraction. We're taking the 175 away from 436. So the bigger number here needs to go on the top. 6 take away 5 is 1. 3 take away 7, we'd say you can't do. Okay, so we'll borrow 1 from here. So borrow 1 from the hundreds column and add it on there. 13 take away 7 is 6. And 3 take away 1 is 2. And again, some for you to try. Question 3, just times table question, 35 divided by 7, just relying on learning our times tables as best we can. Multiply 36 by 16. A couple of ways to do this. Probably the most familiar and recognized way is to start by multiplying 36 by the unit 6. So 6 sixes are 36. The problem with this method is where you put the carried number, the 3. Putting it underneath may end up blocking our way, so a lot of people like to write it up here. Right. Then we've done 6 sixes, so we'll do 6 threes, which are 18. Add that 3 is 21. Moving on, on our second line we put a 0 because ultimately what we're multiplying by now is not 1, we're multiplying by 10. The value of that 1 in that number is 10, so 10 times 6 is 60, but what we're doing now is 1 times 6 is 6 because we've already added the 0 in the end, and 1 times 3 is 3. And finally, add the two parts of our answer together. As an alternative, some people like the grid method where you partition or split the number into tens and units. So 36 would be 30 and 6. And they run horizontally along the top of the grid, and 16 would be 10 and 6, which run vertically down the side. Not the neatest, my apologies, but we're going to multiply all these parts separately. So 10 times 30 is 300, 10 times 6 is 60, 6 times 30 is 180, and 6 sixes are 36. And then we'd add up all the values within the grid here, the 300, the 180, the 60 and the 36, and we'd get the same answer, 576. Again, whichever method takes your preference, you decide, and have a go at the ones below. Question 5, time elapsed, calculating with units of time. How many minutes are there in 3 1/4 hours? Split this up into hours and minutes, okay? So each hour has 60 minutes in it. So 60 in the first hour, 60 in the second hour, 60 in the third hour, and then 1/4 of an hour, 15 minutes, all added together, which we could do in a little column if we need to. 60, 60, 60, and 15, adding up to 195 minutes. Question 6. Again, a couple of ways to half a number. The question actually could be on doubling or halving. Could be done in the same way. One way to half would be to divide by 2. And I know some people like to do that. Are quite competent and confident using this sort of bus stop technique. 2 into 1 doesn't go. Carry the 1 on. 2 into 17 goes 8 times. Remainder 1. And 2 into 12, 6 times. Option 1. Option 2, to do a bit like we did when we were multiplying. Partition or split the number into hundreds, 100, tens, 7 tens, which is 70, and units. Half them individually, 50, 35, and 1, and add these parts together to get 86. Again, if you want to pause, you can try some of these on your own. Question 7. Put the following in descending order. So descending is going down from highest to lowest. The question may ask for ascending order, which is from lowest to biggest. A common problem here is that we're presented with decimals of different length, some with 1 decimal place, some with 2, some with 3. So what we would probably encourage people to do is to find the longer number, the one with the most decimal places, which is in this case is our first number here, which has 1, 2, 3 decimal places, okay? And encourage them to add zeros onto the other decimals so that they are all of the same length. They are all as big as this biggest number, this is 0.208 in length. So to do that, this would need 2 zeros, this would need 1 zero, and this would need 1 zero. We're now looking at 3 digits after the decimal point, 3 decimal places for each number: 208, 200, 820, and 080. And it's far easier now to put these in order. So starting with the biggest, which would be C, 0.820, then A, 0.208, then B, 0.200, and the smallest D, 0.080. Question 8, calculating a fraction of a number. Our advice, to find a fraction of a number, divide by the bottom, the denominator, and then multiply by the top, the numerator. So you take your number that you're working with, in this case 15, divide by the bottom, split it into 5 parts so that each part is 3. Okay, and that's 1/5 we found there, but we want 3/5, so we need to take that answer and multiply it by the top, the numerator, to get 9. Again, pause and try the questions now. Question 9 and 10. Write in numbers, 150,000. There we go, and we'll move straight on from that one. That's one just to have practice. Okay, question 10. Round 11,581 to the nearest 100. Okay, to do this, I would encourage you to look in the correct column first of all. So you're going to need to know place value wise. This is our units column, this is our tens column, this is our hundreds column, our thousands column, and our 10,000 column. Okay, so in this case, our hundreds column has got a 5 in it. Right, 500 is the value of that 5. To decide whether we're going to round up 100 to the next 100 up, which is 600, or stay on 500, we'll look at the next number. And because the 5 is followed by an 8, the 5 will round up. 581 is nearer to 600 than it is to 500. What we can't do, and a common mistake, is to not write the numbers that come before that though. Okay, so 11,000, then the important number 581, which is rounding up to 600. In this question, pupils may be asked to round to the nearest 10, 100 or 1000, so there's a chance to practice with the number 23,281 below. Question 11. Okay, multiply 5.07 by 10. What is happening here, when you multiply by 10, every digit is moving up a place value. So the 5 units will move up and become 5 tens. The 0 tenths will move up into the units column, and the hundredths will move into the tenths column. Okay, so however, a shortcut, not one we should probably encourage, but it is the one I guess most people use, rather than thinking of moving the numbers up a place value, is just to move the decimal point down a place value. So move it down 1 place. So instead of being between the 5 and the 0, it's now between the 0 and the 7. If we were multiplying by 100, okay, we would move the decimal point twice. So it would move all the way to the end of the number, and the answer would be 507. Okay, you have a go now at the ones below there. Then we move on to multiplying by multiples of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and so on. What we'd encourage to do here is very much the same as question 11, to start by multiplying by 10, move the decimal point down a place, so it's 1.3. Okay, but because 30 is 3 tens, we need to take our answer and multiply it by 3, which is 3.9. All right, so multiplying by 20 would be times 10 times 2. Multiplying by 30 would be times 10 times 3, and so on. Try the ones underneath. Question 13, conversions of metric units of length and weight. I've written the common ones down that we need to learn. 1 kilometre is 1,000 metres, each metre is 100 centimetres, and each centimetre is 10 millimetres. And then in terms of weight, a kilogram is 1,000 grams. Okay, that prefix kilo, as we can see, meaning 1,000. So 1 kilometre is 1,000 metres and 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams. I've also written the a volume conversion that a litre is 1,000 millilitres, but that won't be needed in this question. Convert 3 metres into centimetres is the question, so the conversion we're using here is that each metre is 100 centimetres. So 3 metres is 300 centimetres. Question 14, adding and subtracting decimal numbers. The important thing here is to write our numbers in columns like we did in question 1 and 2, but making sure that the decimal points line up under each other. So let's work out if we're adding or subtracting these numbers. I have £3.26 and spend £1.55. How much do I have left? So this is a subtract question. £3.26 minus £1.55. See how the decimal points are underneath each other so that they're aligned, and all the numbers then align in columns to help us to do this properly. 6 take away 5 is 1. 2 take away 5, again, we can't do that until we borrow from the next number along, borrow 1 from there, add it on there. 12 take away 5 is 7, and 2 take away 1 is 1. So the answer, £1.71. Again, try the questions underneath. Question 15, bid mass. Basically, the order that we take on a calculation. The B stands for brackets, the I stands for indices, that's things like squared and cubed, then D division, M multiplication, A addition, and S subtraction. Okay, a little bit confusing because actually D and M, divide and multiply, are done, they have equal weighting, they're done simultaneously, and so are adding and subtracting. But what we must do is all division and multiplication sums before we do our adding and subtracting. So in the example here, which isn't a great example, but we'll do it anyway, there's a division sum in the middle, 20 divided by 4, which is 5. Okay, now this is where the slight confusion comes in, and which is why it's not such a great question. However, adding and subtracting can be done, they kind of have equal weighting, as I said. So we should do them in the order that we get them here. So because we've got 15 take away 5 plus 1, we do the sum in that order, even though A technically comes before S in bid mass. So 15 take away 5 is 10, add 1 is 11. Take a look at the question underneath. Hopefully it's not as confusing as the one I've just done. 7 bags of rice, this is question 16, cost £210. How much do 3 bags cost? The title of this question is using ratio and proportion. We're going to use the unitary method, finding out what 1 costs. Always try and work out what 1 costs. So if 7 bags of rice cost £210, I need to be able to divide that by 7 to work out what each bag of rice costs. And my answer to that is 30. Now I know what 1 bag costs, I can calculate that 3 bags would cost 3 times as much. So we can do that by multiplying or by adding 30 to itself 3 times. And the answer is £90. Try the ones underneath. And we're getting towards the end. Question 17. We need to know the common fraction, decimal, and percentage equivalencies. So the main ones I would suggest that we need to learn are a half, a quarter, and 10%, okay, which is 1/10. So each tenth is 0.1, which is 10%, okay. A half is 0.5, which is 50%. And the other one I would encourage us to learn at the moment is a quarter, 0.25, which is 25%. In this case, we're talking about 7 tenths, 0.7, which instead of being 10% is 70%. So 70%, 7 tenths, and we write that fraction as it is 7/10. Again, you might want to try the ones below. Question 18. A settee which costs £230 is put in a 10% sale. What is the new sale price of the settee? So to find 10% of a number, which is what this question will always be about, okay, we have to divide that number by 10. So in this case, 10% of £230 is £23 if we divide it by 10. But that is the amount I'm having off in the sale. So I still have to be able to take that off my full price. Again, borrowing initially, 10 take away 3 is 7, 2 take away 2 is 0, and 2 take away 0 is 2. So the answer to that, £207. And there's a question below to try again. And our last two questions, best value for money, question 19, and profit or loss, question 20. So money topics, and can be a little bit tricky, and probably two of the topics on this test that people struggle with the most. So let's have a look at methods we can use to make them a little bit easier. Which of these is better value for money? 72p each, 4 for £2.40, or £1.50, buy one get one free. Think of the three options as three shops. Shop A, Shop B, Shop C. And the first thing I would always encourage pupils to do is work out how many am I getting for the price quoted. So in A, 72p each. That means I am getting 1 for 72p. In B, 4 for £2.40. So I'm getting 4 for that price. In C, £1.50, buy one, get one free. So I'm getting 2. I'm getting 1. Sorry, one right there. I'm getting 1 and then 1 free. But in order to know which is the best value for money, I need to compare quantities that are the same. But in each shop here, I've got a different quantity. Now, I always look possibly at the biggest amount, 4, and see whether could I buy 4 in the other shops. Would that be easy enough sums to do? And in this case, I could. If they're 72p each, if I could times that by 4, I'd know what 4 cost in shop A. And if £1.50 buys me 2, if I double that, or times by 2, that'll tell me what 4 costs in shop C. So for shop A, 72 times 4, 4 2s are 8, and 4 7s are 28. Apologies, running out of room there. That's 288p, which is £2.88. And in shop C, £1.50 times 2, 2 zeros are 0, 2 5s are 10, that's 0 carry 1, put the decimal point in, 2 1s are 2, add the 1 is 3, so that is £3 for 4. And then a quick comparison of which is cheaper to buy 4, and it appears it's shop B, where I can get 4 for £2.40. And finally, question 20. It costs McDonald's £2.30 to make a Happy Meal, which they then sell for £2.65. Before I go any further, I can work out the profit that each Happy Meal makes, because I'm selling it for more than it costs to make. Okay, and if I take away the £2.30 from the £2.65, 5 take away 0 is 5, 6 take away 3 is 3, 2 take away 2 is 0. It's 35p or £0.35 per Happy Meal profit. Then the second part of the question says, in a day, McDonald's sell 100 Happy Meals. How much profit or loss do they make? So every Happy Meal is making me 35p profit, but I'm selling 100 of them. Okay, and this goes back to multiplying decimals by 10, 100,000. And our shortcut we said then, if we multiply by 100, is to move the decimal place 2 places to the right, which would move it right to the end of this number, giving me a final answer of £35. And that's the end of our walkthrough. Hopefully it helps. And if you need to get in touch with me, you can either use my email or send a message in with pupils, and I'd be more than willing to support you more in any way that I can. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.